Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I'm excited for the individual that I have on. He and I have recently connected through a mutual connection. My brother-in-law, Ed Milet, has graciously connected this guy with me because he's written a book, and Dads Who Lead. You can see it on the background there on his screen, but it's a phenomenal book, and so I'm really excited to kind of dive into this guy's backstory. But my good friend Tom Pfanner has joined me on Dad Up. Welcome to the show, brother.
Brian, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on. I'm excited we got a chance to connect finally, and I'm glad you got a chance to meet Ed. I know he's kind of lively and it's always fun to hang out with. So that's awesome. Um, let's do this. Let's dive into a little bit of back history about you, and then obviously we'll dive into your family as well because this is a dad podcast, and then we'll go about your book as well.
Let's go. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, just give me a little bit of back history about you and kind
Sure.
of how you grew up and the things you're into, and then how you got inspired to write the book, and also about your family.
Perfect. So I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. My dad was a retired major from the Air Force. And one of the ways that he and I really connected growing up was football. And so I remember watching football with him and being excited about fourth grade when I could start to play flag football. But here's the deal. When I got to fourth grade, I wasn't that great of an athlete. And I fast forward to high school and I still wasn't that great of an athlete. But I loved the game. And so I was hungry to be a part of it, hungry to contribute in any way that I could. But through high school, I was not popular. I was by no means like attracting any girls. I was probably ignored most of the time. And by my senior year, I had kind of built myself up and ended up attracting a girl, and I got in a relationship for the wrong reasons. And I became a dad my senior year of high school.
Hmm.
Um, and that process was a roller coaster because it was one unexpected and two, the belief systems and the families. It's difficult for a married couple to do it, but for us, we were two teenagers with two very different families with different belief systems, and um, so from the jump, going into my adult life, I've been a father. So that's kind of the brief start of the backstory. I can keep going into my relationship with my son now, who's just about to turn 18.
Yeah. Well, so how many kids do you have now?
So now I've got three
Yeah.
with my now wife Megan. We've been married for 12 years, and we've got a 3-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter.
Okay. All right. Cool. So you have an 18-year-old, a 5, and a 3-year-old.
Yes, sir.
All right. Cool. And then about your book, Dads Who Lead. I mean,
Yes.
what really inspired you to write Dads Who Lead? And was there like a specific moment and
Yes.
as a father that made you realize that leadership was more important than the traditional parenting?
Yes, great question. That's kind of a great segue to the subtitle of the book is the ultimate guide to stop parenting and start leading, and that's really the philosophy that came to my heart when my son was in eighth grade. So especially if you're listening, you have a blended family, you'll relate with this. I shared my son halftime with his mom from the time he was in second grade through about seventh grade, and in seventh grade. She moved about 2.5 hours away. This was right when schools were starting to let kids back in, right at the tail end of COVID in 2021. And Charles was basically my son. It's like, I don't want to go move to Redmond. I want to stay with my dad in Eugene. So I'm like, hey, great, more time with him. Help him find a job, time to coach his football team, be involved in his life. And so I think things are going pretty well. I'm involved. He's passing his classes in school. And then in January of Charles's eighth grade year, there's a day that I'm not able to get a hold of him after school. I was coaching wrestling at the time. Um, my parents, my wife, nobody was able to get a hold of him.
Mm.
So they go like, what's going on? And finally, it feels like 3 hours. Or it was 3 hours. It probably felt about 3 days. Finally, I get him on the phone through maybe calling parents or he called. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but I got him on the phone and he says to me, "Dad, I'm tired of being controlled. I'm done with you. I'm moving in with mom. Peace out."
Hmm.
End of call. And so that just hit me square in the chest that like it felt like all of this time of coaching my son's football team and meeting with his teachers and going on the scout campouts and all this investment and heart that I poured into him was just like washing away and he was walking out of my life. And Charles was gone. I remember going into his empty bedroom and just sulking and like there's no more teachers to talk to. There was no more angle for me. So I was lost. I was sitting there with God and I said, God, what's next? He says, the only person left to change is you. And that was it was really hard because I was a middle school PE teacher. I'd read the Jocko Willink's ownership, extreme ownership. Um, Chris Voss never split the difference. Like I felt like I had done a lot to improve my communications, my skill as a leader, myself as a father and a dad. And in that moment, it was a yes, and I need more of you. Your son needs an even more evolved version of what a leader is that he can lean into.
Hmm.
So during that his eighth grade year, when he moved out to Redmond, he wasn't going to class. He started smoking weed. He was going down a bad path, and so I knew if I didn't change something quickly, he was going to end up as a high school drug addict and high school dropout by the time we got to Christmas of 2022. And so I uh, I went all in on my walk with God and finding a coach to help me uncover the blocks that I couldn't see. And now going through that process, God's called me to help other dads who are experiencing teenage rebellion so that they can either ideally get ahead of it, so they don't have to go through what I went through, or if they are, the steps to reverse this one, first understand the cycle of rebellion and then to reverse it so that our young heroes can lean into our leadership.
Okay, cool. I want to dive into that because that's great. I think it's super important, especially dads who have boys.
Yes.
It can be a challenging road, especially when they hit those teenage years. What is your? Let me ask you this: you emphasize stop parenting and start leading, right?
Yes.
But what's the core difference between a parent and a leader in the home?
Great question. Parenting habits, which they happen. Sometimes they need to happen. It's, hey, get your shoes on. We have to go to school. Did you do
Hmm.
your homework? You're managing your kids when
Hmm.
you're parenting. You're giving them things to do or monitoring their progress in a very direct way.
Hmm.
Leading your kids is coming from the space of leading by example,
Hmm.
becoming the person that they want to follow, spending time with them in ways that is not attached to an outcome.
Right.
So I already had to prioritize my fitness, for example, but now in this next season, how I evolved was all right, my son needed to get active. I need to find something that he can do that's taking care of his body because he was doing things that was destroying his body. Once we ended up moving out to Redmond, because kind of put the next piece of that story together. I left my teaching job, left the house that we owned, and we moved out here to Redmond. And basically the judge said, "Hey, if you move out there, you have 50-50 parenting time and no child support." And so we're like, "All right, well let's go all in on that." We didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. Um,
Now, did you have your other kids yet at this point?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Leela had just been born. She was like 6 months old when we moved, and then Maddie was just about to turn 3.
Okay. So your now current wife was completely supportive of this as well.
Yes,
Okay,
because
cool.
she knew that one, the environment that we were in Eugene, um, wasn't one that we really felt like was still in alignment for us, and
Hmm.
that if we didn't do something to help Charles, the mess that we were going to have would be much, if we stayed where we were, it was going to end up getting bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, so it's a matter of more of leading by example and
yes.
connection. That's where the difference is.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of parents nowadays, they either want to, and I'm a firm believer in this, but they either want to be their best friends, their kid's best friend,
Yes.
and kind of do everything that they do and let them be as free as they want. And then you got the other parent that is more of the like you had mentioned before, manager, kind of the dictator,
Yes.
and those two styles of parenting are way different and can lead to different results, and doesn't always necessarily end up bad, but more likely than not, it will go down a road that you don't necessarily want it to go down. I think what you're bringing up as far as leading by example and also connection are two of the most important things that you can do as a
Yes.
parent, not only for parents that have boys, but also parents that have girls. Would you agree with that?
Yes. The connection is huge. And in my book, I talk about there's the different levels, and level three is respect, level four is connection or groundbreaking adventure. And that's one of the like the big tenets that I believe in is finding activities that you can do alongside with your young hero.
Hmm.
So for Charles and I, it's training Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu.
Hmm.
My daughter loves to rock climb and she's asking about going fishing. So it's like, all right, I haven't fished for 15 years, but if you want to go fishing, let's go on this adventure day. Let's go down and get our rods tuned up and ready to go, and we'll go out and find somebody to go with and go on a new adventure. But like as we have this deeper connection, and you
Hmm.
have that time with your kids where you're maybe it's driving practice, maybe it's going hunting. You have a task that you're doing together that you both enjoy, and you can just ride side by side.
Hmm.
And creating that container where they just get to be with you. Now you're leading them from who you are as a man and how you operate instead of the police officer or the teacher with the checklist. Because
Right.
kids get that all day at school. I was one of them. I was one of those teachers. It's like, all right, are you doing anything? Are you dressed down? Are and so to have that different environment is big. And like, I'm glad, Brian, that you brought up that point of like, either are you the friend or are you the parent? And you can't be the same. And I couldn't disagree with that philosophy more.
Right.
And I say that because I believe that the more flight time that I have alongside with my kid, specifically my son, who has a very rebellious personality naturally,
Hmm.
the more leadership capital that I have, as long as I position it correctly.
Right.
If I don't position it right, it can lead to just being friend zoned as a
Right.
dad, right? But if you position it right, it just allows you so much more capital to be somebody who understands their story and understand what's going on and can lead them. Because so often when we're parenting teenagers, we feel like we know what's going on and what's best, but often we don't have the full picture. And the more of the full picture that we have, the better position we can be as a leader to help guide them towards that next step.
Right. And I think the only way to gain more of that picture is through the connection and through the communication with your kids and through the developing similar interests or being interested in the things that they do. I think it's super important. It's funny when you were mentioning that, I remember back when COVID, we were talking about COVID earlier, back when COVID was happening, I had a dad reach out to me on Instagram and he had a question for me. He was like, I'm really stuck with my son right now. We're kind of stuck in the house. We can't really do anything. He can't go hang out with his friends, any of those sorts of things, but I can't get him to hang out with me either in the house. And what I find him doing is he's sitting in his room playing on his video games all day or all night or all weekend. And I can't seem to break him away from that to hang out with me so that he and I can kind of connect. What can I do different? And I said, well, number one, why are you trying to take him away from the video games? You guys are stuck in the house. He's stuck there. He can't do anything else. Why are you trying to pull him away from that and pulling him into what you want to do? Why don't you flip it. Why don't you try to hang out with him with his video games? Why don't you try to play video games with him? Why don't you try to have him teach you how to play the video game? Then you're showing a similar interest in the things that he's doing. And while you're doing that, he's looking at you going, hey, wow, this dude or my dad is interested in the things that I'm doing because he wants to play video games with me. And on top of that, you're having him teach you how to play the video game. So now he's really involved, or now he's really motivated to play along with you because now he has to teach you how to play the video games. And it goes even a step further. Now you're starting to build that connection with him because now you guys are hanging out together for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, playing video games. And now you guys are really getting a chance to connect. And I said, so why don't you try that? Instead of trying to pull him away from something he loves, why don't you jump into the things that he loves and connect there? And so it's little tweaks that we can make as parents, um, as simple as that, little tweaks that we can
Yes.
make that can really go a long way. I was speaking before we started recording that, I said, that our recording will go so long because I'm on kind of a time crunch today. I took today as a day to devote to my younger son, who's 23. He's an adult, but he and I, every year, we've done this tradition every single year. The Red Sox come out to California, where I'm at, and they play the
Yes.
the Angels every single year for a series. And every year we go to all three games.
Wow.
And on Monday, this a couple days ago, he and his mom went. Yesterday, he and his fiance went, and today my son and I are going. And so we've done this every year for as long as I can remember. And it's a tradition now that's been built, but it's not just because he's a huge diehard fan of the Red Sox. Like he loves the Red Sox, all that. When we were out in Boston this a few weeks ago, we went to the Red Sox game out there at Fenway. But it's not just because he's a Red Sox fan. I wanted to enjoy time with him, so I thought this would be a great opportunity when we started doing it many, 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 many years ago, and he was just a little guy. Um,
Yes.
and it's turned into this activity that just naturally happens. And I'm not taking my son to a ball game. I'm going to a ball game with a buddy. I mean, seriously, I'm going to a
Yes.
ball game with my buddy. And my boys, being 25 and 23, they're two of my best friends now. And I attribute that to the bond and the connection that I had with them all through their teenage years. And dads, you can have that connection too. You don't have to be a dictator. You don't have to be a parent that is just rah, 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 constantly on them about getting their stuff done or doing this or that. You can be a parent that leads and you can be a parent that connects. And then when you do that, you'll be amazed at the relationship that you have with your child when they become an adult. And the relationship that you have with your child when they are an adult, how much better it will be and how much stronger it will be. I'm glad that you brought that up as far as finding the activities and things to do with your kids because it's so important, so important.
Yes.
I want to ask you this: what's your biggest personal challenge in making that shift? What do you think is I'm speaking to Tom now. What was your biggest personal challenge in making that shift from a parent to a leading, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge for me going back to that space
Mhm.
was looking at everything I had done and then not having a space, not allowing jealousy or not pride, but there's an entitlements
Mhm.
of like, I've done all of these things. I've taught middle school. I've read the books. I've worked on this. I've been reasonable. He should change. This should be enough.
Mhm.
Eliminating that space of I've gone all the way. He needs to come the rest of the way.
Right.
That's broken. It's a broken model. I know people in their
Notice how I
mind,
laugh when you said that.
yeah, in people's mind, it makes sense. Like, hey, I've gone 90. I'm gonna make them come 10. Well, maybe they need you to go 95. Maybe they need you to go 97. Maybe they need you to go 99.5. So
Or a
for
hundred.
me, or yeah, or 100. So it was surrendering. This is the other piece. Understanding that who I am as a dad is not based on my results. It's based on the process, the commitment to the process. So you'll hear people like Nick Saban talk about the same thing of like, oh, we've got to be focused on the details and what we do every day. And so for me as a dad, like I have ups and downs with my son. We've had a lot more ups over the last 3 years than downs. But I also know, all right, am I doing everything I can today? Lord, am I like taking the actions that you need? Am I giving him the space still to move forward, but knowing that I'm always taking action? Yes. Okay. If yes, then I can sleep well at night.
Mm,
And so it was, especially with the court custody being a part of the process, it can feel like a fight. Like, oh, I've got to win my son's heart. Because if I win my heart, then I get to have him. And if I lose his heart, then his mom's going to keep him, and then I'm not going to get to have time with him. And I'm worried about if he goes with his mom, what type of route, who he's going to become, all of that. So circling back, it was the ego death of saying, like, hey, what I've done in the past is great, and hey, that's helped me get to where I need to be. But ultimately, if I need to do a little bit more or try a different approach or do something different, every day is a new day as a father and an opportunity for me to do something either evolved or different or just persistent patience
mm,
as a dad to guide my son.
mm. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think it's super important. I think a lot of dads struggle with the ego part of it for sure. The ego part of it does get in the way, and it's something that listen. Let me just say this: dads out there, you're going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. I am not a perfect dad. I run a parenting podcast. I've helped thousands of dads all over the country. I've coached dads, and I've been a dad to two now adult kids that are now grown and functioning on their own. And today, I still mess up. I still make mistakes. I still go, wait a minute, what in the world am I thinking? I can't believe I just did that as a parent. So there's going to be those days you're going to mess up, but how do you react to that? Do you take responsibility for it? Do you own it, or do you let your ego get in the way and go, you know what, it's me and it's all good? Or do you try to fix it? Do you try to correct it? Do you try to make adjustments? And if you own it, do you own it to the right people? Do you own it to your spouse? Do you own it to your kids to say, hey, look, I messed up and I'm willing to work on this and fix it and make it better. I'm not going to allow my ego to get in the way anymore. I'm going to make this better moving forward. And I just hope that you can allow me the time to do that and give me
Yes.
patience and give me support as I do that. And if you do that, I promise I'll do everything in my power to be better than I am today. So
Yes.
I think that's super powerful. But I want to ask you, when it comes to being an authority, how can a dad lead with authority without becoming an authoritarian? And that's super important. And where's the balance between strength and compassion?
Okay, so I'll start with that first question of how
Right.
can you balance authority with what was the word that you used?
How can you lead with
Lead
authority
with authority.
without becoming an authoritarian?
Okay. So to me, it all comes down to first becoming a man that's worth following. That's like that. That's the first thing. Are you strong in your faith? Are you strong in the belief that God's put me in this position, in this specific challenge on purpose for me to grow? And he's put me as the father of my kids
Hmm.
intentionally. Like he chose me to lead these children, his children. If you're a follower of Jesus, you think about this. God chose you as a father
Hmm.
to his children as your time on earth, as their earthly father. That should give you a lot of faith that you doesn't say you doesn't mean you have all the skills and ability. Like Michael Jordan wasn't born with all the skills and abilities, but he was born with the drive to maximize his skills and abilities.
Right.
So from that space, taking ownership, the first thing that I see specifically, like if you've taken ownership, you're like, all right, I've got that. I know I have faith. I take responsibility when things don't go right. And I'm still running into the eye rolls, the back talk, the
Hmm.
disconnection. There's not a mutual respect. It starts with establishing, and I go into it in more depth in my book in this in section 3, which is the art of earning respect. But it's positioning your relationship in a way that one, they respect who you are as a man, but also they respect how you treat them as a young person and becoming a great listener. And the truth be told, you want to know like the I'm really not into tips and tricks. I'm really into like, hey, let's do the deep work so you become the person. But the door to unlock, which may take some time and development, but is the hack for any relationship is becoming a great listener.
Right.
Because there are so few people that are great listeners that it really can be a Trojan horse for your relationship. Because if you are a great listener, that means that you're gonna know they're gonna start talking to you and they're gonna start dumping things,
Right.
and you're gonna now know about what's going on. And so you know Jesse from the soccer team, and you know the weird character on the video game, and you
Uh,
know these things. So you have these starting points that you can start and try to feed off and build. If you just start with being a great listener. Um, so that's what I would say is if you're a great listener, like you find a boss that's an authoritarian, and I bet you 95% of those people who work under him or her would say, and if you're saying, how good of a listener is your authoritarian boss? They would probably say, terrible. They don't know
right.
what's going on. They just say what they need done. They're really not worried about what I'm thinking, feeling, or experiencing, or my thoughts or plans. They're
Hmm.
just doing so. Being that position that understands, like how often I've heard as a middle school teacher, or in the work that I do, kids saying like, "Oh, they don't understand. My teacher doesn't understand. My dad doesn't understand." My eliminating that block of
Hmm.
feeling somebody feeling misunderstood or not understood at all is a huge victory. So that's what I would encourage folks to do.
Yeah, I think listening is one of the most powerful tools that we can utilize as a parent, because sometimes we don't have to necessarily ask questions. Sometimes all we have to do is listen. And
Yeah.
it's interesting. Even talking to my own wife, when she's had a tough day or whatnot, or something's on her mind, as a husband, I want to step in and try to fix whatever I can fix, right? I want to do whatever I can to make things right. But sometimes all she needs me to do is just listen. And that's all I have to do. I don't have to open my mouth at all. I just listen and pay attention to what she's saying so that she feels like she's being heard. And that's something that's super important for kids. They want to feel like they're being heard. And the more you try to step in and correct things, or the more you try to, maybe interrupt what they're saying to correct things, or tell them what they should be doing, the less likely they're going to come to you in the future. And there may be that time where they just want to share something funny with you, and you're, not listening, you're not paying attention, or you're uh, trying to tell them how it could have gone better or what could have happened differently. And next time when they really need your help, they're not going to come to you because they know, well, he doesn't listen to me anyway, so why should I even bother going and mentioning this to him? Um, and it may be that time that they really needed you and you couldn't be there because they couldn't
Yes.
trust you. It comes down to trust too. So listening and trusting. So, but I want to ask you this, for dads that, there might be dads out there right now that are watching this that just go, listen, that's great, but I've already failed at this. I mean,
Mm.
I have nowhere I can go now. I'm like, I've already messed up. There's no way I can repair this. What would you say to the dad who feels like he's already failed? Can he still lead? And where does he begin
Yes.
if he can?
Yes. Great question. Yeah, I was at that space where my son wouldn't answer my texts, didn't want to have anything to do with me. So I've been there. If you're in that space where there's no communication, you work on your what I do and what I coach people to do is to work on your faith and belief that you're not in this challenging circumstance by accident.
Hmm.
And then secondly, work on the skill of ownership. And I put all these things. It's easy as men to talk about things like faith, respect, ownership, creating adventures, and see it as just something you got to go do. Like you got to change the oil in your car. But really, it's a skill set. It's like, oh, do you run fast? Well, how fast do you need to be? It's going to be different for different kids. So, circling back to the question, if you're in that space, you can always say, hey, I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to lift weights. I'm going to take care of my own health, my fitness, my mind, my finances. I'm going to learn about, you might not be able to have a conversation with your son or daughter if they've like estranged themselves from your
Hmm.
life, but you can learn about the things that they're interested in. You can depending on, and this is kind of like if you've ever been sailing or spent time on the water, you kind of have to read the waves in the water. So it's not like, oh, in this situation, always do X, depending on how the wind is blowing in the direction. It might be just sending a message every couple weeks and say like, "Hey, thinking about you," or sending a funny picture
Hmm.
or an Instagram reel that you think that they would like. It might just start with something very, very small that allows you to rebrand yourself. Because often when kids are in that space where they don't want their dads in their life, it's because they feel like they're boxed in. They feel like when that name pops up on the phone, there's either shame. They might be feeling shame that they haven't reached back out to you. They might be feeling, oh no, here's the police officer. He's going to tell me what I need to do. They're feeling some type of emotion that's causing them to pull back from the relationship. So if you're able to identify, all right, what is it likely that my teenager or my 20 something year old is feeling? And then how can I rebrand myself so that that's not all that I am to them? So
Hmm.
doing those like just very light text message or something that's a funny like a joke so that you can kind of come alongside them and be prepared when the opportunity comes where they say, it might just be like they like a message that you sent you. Okay, cool. And you can just end it there. It doesn't have to be they like a message, then, hey, let's talk about our issue. No, maybe it's like, all right, cool. And you just do that a few times. And then after 2, 3, 4 weeks of doing that, they're ready to start to rebuild and rekindle what you have. But never quit. I tell folks, you're not the leader of your kid. You're not the leader of your teenager, but you are the leader of the relationship. So, as the leader of the relationship, there are actions that we want to do to foster the relationship that we have with our kids without the space of, I'm here to control and dictate where you're going and what you're doing and when you do it. For some age kids, that may be appropriate, but as our kids become 17, 18 years old, they're not interested in anybody but themselves of what they want to do,
Right.
right? So that's
Right.
what I would say is be patient and persistent.
Yeah. No, I think it's patience is huge. It's one thing that I had to learn as when my boys were super young. It's like I had to learn to be patient. And I think being a coach, coaching their sports, I was coaching their sports teams
Yes.
from the age of like 4 all the way up through high school. I coached their teams, and that helped me. That helped me develop patience because I'm dealing not only with my own two boys, but I was also dealing with 10 or 12 other kids as well. So I think patience is one of the most powerful strategies that you can use in developing your relationship with your child for sure. But
Yes.
you had mentioned in the book that dads are reactive, and I love that because we are. And what tends to happen, especially with dads that have boys, what tends to happen is we become reactive in that when our kids get upset and they raise their voice at us, what do we do? So they've raised their voice here, and then we try to go here. So what does that cause? What does that what happens at that point? Well, when we've raised our voice here, now they've tried to come here. Now we're reacting again. And it's just
Yeah.
this cycle, and it becomes really, really ugly and becomes it just creates a volatile, just really bad relationship, and especially a communication relationship with your kids. So, what's a practical first step to becoming more intentional and proactive as a leader at home for dads that may be reactive?
So if I'm hearing you right, dads who you're easily sparked, you're easily kind of get to this space of impatience.
Mm-hmm.
There's two things that come up. I know you asked for one, so I'm going to give you one and then I'll give you a bonus. The first thing, because you mentioned volume,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned this from another teacher when I was teaching, was actually people listen more carefully when you're quiet, which I haven't been real quiet today in this podcast. I've been more um, animated and excited because I'm really pumped up to be here. But if you drop your voice, one, it will drop the temperature of everything that's happening in your experience with your kid, and it will allow them to slow down and it will allow you to slow down. So anytime we're in these interactions with our kids, they're racing fast, we're racing fast, we're not going to make as good and as clear of decisions. I've got a 17-year-old son, and if he's moving too fast, he's going to make much worse decisions. If what do you think the best next move is? Oh, okay, I think it's this. So that's the first thing I would say would be to slow down. And the other thing is breathing. And that's probably something you could do more outside of like in preparation rather than in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're able to breathe deeply and like access our diaphragm and control that range, it does make an impact on our pacing and our how we respond. So if you notice somebody that's very frantic,
Mm-hmm.
probably they've got breath that's very high and rapid. When we get into the lower frequencies um of the breath, and you're able to develop the again the diaphragm muscles and that ability to operate at a slower pace, I think doing some breath work can be really powerful as well.
Mhm. I think breath work is super important. It's something that not only I mean, it's good for anybody, but developing proper breathing techniques can not only help you stay calm and more relaxed and centered, but also help you curve any type of issues you may have with stress, anxiety, and all those sorts of things. So, but I love the fact that you bring up working on that even before a situation occurs. So it's not so much of when a situation happens, you're like, okay, I got to stop. I got to take deep breaths. I got to hold my breath for a 3 count. I've got to do 10 breaths before I can react. No, that's not what necessarily what you're saying. But what you are saying is making sure you're working on those things so that way when something does happen, you are able to be more centered, less stress, and less reactive in the situation when it does come up. So I think that's at least that's what I'm gathering what you're saying. I think that's super cool.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know I drilled a bunch of questions at you about the book and about kind of your purpose and all that kind of stuff behind it. But before we close here, Tom, I wanted to give you an opportunity to let my listeners know best place to look you up, best place to learn a little bit more about you, maybe follow you on social media or pick up the book.
Yeah. Yeah, you can pick up the book at dadswholead.com. We'll be on Amazon soon, but right now I've got kind of the old school method of delivery. Um, and if you're a dad of a teenager or soon to be teenager and you're really looking for some skills to help understand teenage rebellion and how to reverse the cycle, that's really the whole goal of the book. And again, it's don't expect a quick tips and tricks type of book. Like we talk about the deep issues, we talk about how to deal with technology and creating a lot of what we talked about on this episode, but at a much deeper level and a pace that I believe is really digestible and impactful. So yeah, dadswholead.com. You can pick up the book. My Instagram handle is the leadership dad. So that's kind of the personal brand. Dads Who Lead is the movement. Um, and yeah, and if you're just wanting to get on our email list, we have a leadership quiz that's free, and you'll see that on the website as well.
Okay. And that's dadswholead.com. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Well, listen, Tom, I am certainly glad we got a chance to connect. Thank you very much for being on. Thank you for sharing kind of your journey, the struggles, not only that you went through, but the ways that you kind of found your way out of them and worked your way out of them, and also about the book too. So I appreciate you being on, brother.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, this has been another episode of Dad Up. I want to thank my good friend Tom Pfanner for being on the show. Make sure you guys go to dadswholead.com, check things out, see what he's all about, see a little bit more about him, and pick up the book. If you're in that space, maybe in this space that we talked about today, where you're kind of struggling with really finding that connection with your kids, pick up the book, learn a little bit more about how you can implement these strategies and change the direction that your relationship is currently going with your own kids. So make sure you do that. Make sure you follow him on Instagram as well. All the links will be in the show notes below. So please make sure you do that. And if you are not yet subscribed to my show, please make sure you do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests that I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.